Hey, are you hiring? If you answered yes, let XenTegra Staffing help staff your IT people needs. Head over to XenTegra.com/XenTegra Staffing to find out more. XenTegra Staffing, we can staff your IT people needs. Welcome to another edition of the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Citrix Session podcast. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. Got with me Bill Sutton, Director of Services. Bill, how's it going?
Going well today, Andy. How about yourself?
Good. How's the summertime consulting business going? I know you and I talked about it some, and people are out of the office kind of in general these days. But people are taking vacations, and things are a little quiet, right?
They are. Yeah, things have slowed down. So this is the time to reach out if you need somebody scheduled right away or at any time. But right now we're kind of slow.
Right. Well, now's the time to at least get prepared for those projects coming up in the next month or two for sure.
That's right. That's what we're doing.
So we're ramping up and taking classes and putting on our studying caps and getting prepared for the next round of projects that are coming in.
Yep.
We definitely with the work remote stuff that's happening throughout the world, we definitely see it building. And there's like a massive storm cloud of potential EUC conversations kind of building off in the distance. You can see it. You can see the dark clouds and the thunder and lightning coming our way. We're just going to get ready for it.
That's right. Yep, it's definitely coming, and I think we'll see a lot more of it as time goes on, given what people have encountered during this quarantine.
So we're lucky to have with us one of our sales engineers, a guy by the name of Hervey Green, which many of our clients have interacted with in the past. Harvey, how's it going?
Doing great. Hope you are as well.
So we brought Harvey on to be the muscle on this session. As we talked through the what's new in Citrix Workspace for May 2020, and that's kind of a conundrum all by itself to talk about Workspace. I think what Citrix really means there is the Workspace services offering, maybe even the on-prem a little bit, but Workspace is kind of a marketing term for Citrix, right? That really means that EUC space that we talk about all the time, and I've probably mentioned on this call a couple of times already. But the first bit of information here, they're talking about, what's the future of this and why this is the new normal and why we need to be talking about the evolution of the workspace all the time, because we see this as a valid platform for people to be using to compute. Harvey, have you seen clients talking more about a holistic approach to their digital workspace than just the remote desktop session conversations?
Absolutely. That's been a lot of my conversations. It kind of ranged from, all right, this will happen and, we'll get over it. It'll be a couple weeks and everything will be fine. And, it took a while for a lot of people for the realness of this event to sink in. And, now we're to the point where there's, I believe, pretty much a full understanding across the board that not only is this a real thing, but it's something that you need to plan your business around and make sure that you've got a way for people to be able to work remotely and using Citrix, being able to do that from anywhere. So I think that's very important.
It's interesting. I meant to start the conversation off this way. I think they do a good job here of kind of explaining. It's like it's got to be a strategic decision, just like moving. And the example they gave here is, in their situation. And this blog was done by what's called the Citrix Workspace team. There was no actual person identified. That's why we don't have a SME on. But we thought we'd cover this one ourselves internally and have a very open conversation about it. But I like the way they start this one off, thinking about it being a strategic thing, like moving, like personally you moving, and trying to find a place with a nice, big, very usable, safe cul-de-sac. Because your kids are going to go play in the street. You might as well put them in a place where they have a chance to be successful.
Right.
So I really love what they're covering here. The first section they get into is the business continuity programs around Citrix Workspace. And I think the real high-level conversation there is that with the workspace holistic conversation, there's just a lot of different areas of keeping the business going that's covered in the workspace offering.
Absolutely. It covers more than just, more than just our traditional, what all of us know is the traditional, remote app, remote desktops, those sorts of things. It's more than just that. It's the ability to aggregate those apps and desktops, but also SaaS apps and web apps and put them behind a single source of authentication. So the user goes to their workspace where they can do a lot of their work without having to launch that virtual desktop, but they have that virtual desktop or those virtual apps there available to them, and they're all collapsed into one place and one pane of glass, as it were, for access.
I think it's always fun to point out that the number one thing we see Citrix Workspace or any other workspace technology used for is still the virtual app or the virtual desktop.
Yes, we do.
However, what we're going to talk about here is the futures of that. And I can't help it. My brain was spinning just now thinking about how it's going to take the cul-de-sac example, right? So you buy a house in a cul-de-sac so that you can, so your kids can go do the normal thing, which is go play in the street, right? Safe place to kids play in the street. But as I'm thinking about ways that you expand what the future of a cul-de-sac is, think about something like Uber or Lyft. Well, at my house, they have to pull into the driveway and then back out. But if I lived in a cul-de-sac, they could just swing around and pick me up. That's some future thinking about how we're going to use, in this case, the cul-de-sac, but how we're going to use the workspace differently.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm actually really proud of myself for coming up with that one.
Good job.
So along those lines, Citrix is offering something new within the workspace product set, and that's called Workspace Essentials. Harvey, you want to take a shot on covering what they're covering here with what Workspace, the Essential, I guess that's the most basic level offering of the workspace covers?
It is, yes. So basically, Citrix is working to create a holistic environment. And with having a holistic environment, you want to make sure that you've got the use cases for each person covered. And in some of those use cases, they just need a minimal amount of access to the workspace. In this case, using software as a service apps. So they've got listed here Workday and Salesforce, ServiceNow, some of those other things that you would connect to that aren't hosted in your environment, your cloud services, is another way to look at it. You've also got access to ShareFile and your web applications, which they have here, SharePoint and Outlook Web Access. Just being able to connect at a minimum to those types of services, but still be protected under the Citrix Workspace umbrella. So you'll have the authentication happening there. You'll be able to implement your multi-factor to help with reducing the chances that you'll be subject to an attack, just giving you some protections that you don't necessarily have out of the box with some of those other applications.
So Harvey, this is kind of the, I guess I'll just use the term, the crack offering, right? This is what gets you interested in understanding what it can do for you. And then you start thinking about how you might, or the alternative, it might be a great fit for those non-traditional Citrix customers that aren't doing virtual app and virtual desktop and don't plan to. This gives them a way to leverage the technology and get the benefits out of it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This gives them kind of the first blush offering to make sure that you're protecting all of your users the best way you can, but also giving them a holistic experience so that your actual user experience doesn't necessarily vary from user to user, but what they have access once they get into that user experience is what will be the variation.
Yeah. Bill, any thoughts? Anything you want to add to this? This is neat to see Citrix, taking the core product, the thing most people know Citrix used for, and taking it out of a product offering instead of bundling it in.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was referring to a minute or two ago about providing an environment where they have access to web SaaS apps behind a single source of authentication. They log into the workspace and they can leverage that to get to their apps and get to other information that they need, like their files, directly from one workspace. And then, of course, that's the essentials version, which Hervey explained. But of course, once you move up the stack, you get access to other things like virtual desktops and virtual apps, if that's the direction the customer wants to go. But essentials offers them, like you said, the kind of the entry point to the Citrix ecosystem, and then they can grow it from there.
Yeah. So I think the big win for a client moving into that world and having this single portal that people go to get access to applications and services, that's a win all by itself. Single sign-on as it relates to that, single identity. But then the next piece of that is they get value add out of what Citrix calls here Citrix Workspace Intelligence, HTTPS probably, both integration. So that you can then start looking at what's going on within that usage of that SaaS or online app. Which one do you guys want to try to run with trying to explain the intelligence piece of Workspace?
Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So this particular piece of it refers to the intelligent workspace that Citrix has, which for people who haven't seen it yet, this is sort of, we've been calling it internally kind of like a Facebook feed, for lack of better terms, to help with the users being able to use their applications, but using them in the way of having them concentrated into a portal, so they're not having to switch from one application to another as much as they normally would in a normal day. So this particular one, go ahead, Andy.
Well, that was just me setting down my coffee cup. But however, that is a good opportunity for me to interrupt. So I think what I did is I totally screwed up the intro to that. So, right, the workspace intelligence piece, that's the micro apps and the ability to bring in non-traditional, non-Windows apps, mostly SaaS apps, into the workspace. And with the Essentials package, you're getting those SaaS-based apps and a single landing page, a single sign-on, a single identity, single authentication. That's step one in what the Workspace is providing people that aren't in the virtual app and desktop world, right?
That's correct.
And then the next section of this goes on to start talking about the analytics, which is what I was really teeing up a minute ago. So in the world of Workspace, with or without virtual apps and desktops, we're really now with that single point of access and the single point of connectivity, that's when analytics start kicking in. And there's really two flavors of that. One would be security analytics, where we can now look at what's happening, what the usage of the app looks like and who's doing what. And then there's the performance of the analytics. There's really two ways to look at that. Hervey, you want to maybe tackle the security analytics conversation quickly?
Sure. So from a security standpoint, one of the strong points of using Citrix Analytics is it looks at user behavior, monitors user behavior, and basically gives each user a risk score. In doing so, it helps you identify pretty quickly and at a glance in the portal whether or not you have users that are of great risk to you versus someone who just comes in and they're accessing everything internally and never make it out to the internet for anything. So it gives you at a quick glance, an idea of what's going on with your user population and where you have actual risk points that you might want to monitor more closely or get your head around.
And Hervey, do you have to set up what those analytics are, or does it out of the box know some criteria to use?
So out of the box, there's criteria that it is using. And again, this is kind of a machine learning service. So this is something that gathers intelligence as the days go on and it gets smarter for you and learns your users more and more as the days go on. So the longer you use the service, the more in tune it will be to your environment.
The more smarter
yes.
It is.
That's right.
So there's a degree of machine learning going on associated with these analytics, and then at the same time, can you go and wait and change the way it looks at certain things?
So you can absolutely. If you know that a particular user actually has a legitimate purpose for sending out big files. Say if you're a design firm, for example, and the files that you send out are normally pretty big because they're design documents, things like that. Then that might look normally to the analytics service out of the box like that might be some sort of data exfiltration that you might want to be notified about. Whereas in this type of environment, that might not be the exact same scenario. So you do have the option to change some of those things. But again, it does learn over time so that, it will see that your designer always does this and therefore wouldn't flag it as abnormal.
Yeah, I like to think of this like the shoplifter scenario, that you have, certain indicators that would cause you to look at certain areas of the store. Or, you might over time realize that most shoplifting's happening in the jewelry section of the store. The machine learns that that's where the camera should be focused most of the time. And if it knows you're not looking there, it should do something to tell you, hey, you need to be looking over here.
Exactly. That's right.
All right. So along those same lines, not only is it for security benefits, but also usage and performance related. Bill, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah. So, this really comes down to allowing the customer's management or supervisors to be able to analyze how well the environment's used, and not just the environment itself, but also those SaaS and web apps, because those things have a cost. And if you've got 1,000 licenses of a certain SaaS app and you've only got 600 users using it on a consistent basis, that this gives you a tool to be able to manage that, be able to see who's logging in when and how much they're using it, get metrics about how long top users are using it or active users, things of that nature that really give you visibility into those SaaS and web apps that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, I have a great example for this one. Have you guys ever been listening to this is it's starting to seem like old school comment here, but you ever listen to the radio and they tell you there's a traffic accident at a certain intersection and you're at that intersection and there's no traffic accident?
Of course. Yes.
So what I'm getting at there is real-time analytics, aka Google Maps in my world, help me get around much better than Bob, the traffic guy on some radio station, because usually, half of what Bob told me was out of date by the time I got to where Bob had reported there being an issue.
That's right.
So real-time analytics on usage performance, that's awesome, and something that Citrix has been working on for a while, both for SaaS and micro apps, as well as sessions within the virtual app and desktop. You guys both know that we have a long history of Citrix getting the blame for things that wasn't Citrix's fault, and anything we can do to help prove that it was something else that was causing the slowdown, just extreme value there as the Citrix defender.
That's right.
Absolutely.
All right, one more section here. I know Mr. Green's got a call with a client here in a minute ago. This talks about multi-factor capabilities being part of the workspace scenario. Obviously, we've got Duo, and we've got Okta, and we've got Microsoft multi-factor. Sounds like Citrix throwing their hat into the ring here as a multi-factor solution. Now, is this just for Citrix-related technologies, or is this for however you wanted to use it?
So this one is specifically aimed at everyone who's using any of the cloud services coming from Citrix, any of their hosted services. In order to get into the cloud portal at this point as an admin, they are requiring multi-factor. And that change was as of June 15th. So that was about a week ago. So they're using TOTP, which is basically time-based one-time password. And you have the ability to use like a Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator to be your multi-factor of choice. But it is something that is now required of every admin signing into the cloud administration portal at this point.
But now, is this talking about just admins, or is this talking about general users too?
This particular one is talking about just the administrators. Mm-hmm. The users are not being required to do that at this point unless you have required to do that by way of your setup for your environment.
And what this is pointing out is if you're an admin, you're going to have to authenticate at least the Citrix multi-factor if you don't have a different one defined. And then if you're a user, your organization can set it up to use the multi-factor solution of your choice. But Citrix now includes one, so that's an opportunity to save money and use the one that's built into it.
That's correct. Absolutely.
And now, Bill, it seems a little limited, right? It's just a one-time password scenario via text, I think, but that's certainly better than nothing, right?
Yeah, I think it's better than nothing, but I think it actually integrates with the one-time password products from like Microsoft or Google. So you actually have to enter the code. I haven't actually set it up on my cloud account. I'm doing that as we speak. But I think I think, Harvey, am I right? Maybe you've set it up that once it's set up, when you log in, it's going to ask you to go to a Microsoft Authenticator app or a Google Authenticator app and enter the code, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll have, with either of those services, the Microsoft service or the Google service that we're talking through right now, both of them have what used to be referred to as kind of a rolling token. If you've used, anything like the RSA badges that used to be very popular or something like that, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Where there's basically a 6-digit code that is randomly generated that changes every, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever that would be. So that's something that they're requiring now for everybody who's signing into the administrative portal. And that's just, again, that's another one of those things that's just for your protection. Having just password be the only thing that is in front of, the controls to your environment is no longer enough anymore. So this is making sure that they've got a second factor in place to make sure that no one's getting unauthorized access to your account.
Yeah, it looks like when you enter the code, they send you a code. When you enter the code, it asks you to scan a QR code, and then I assume it registers your chosen one-time password app as the source.
That's correct. It does.
That's funny. I'm doing it right now too. I haven't been out there in a little while.
Me neither.
That's good. It's good to know that Citrix is providing that, and it can be used as the admin, and then at some point also for users logging into the system without paying for a third-party solution that might be more robust, but an extra cost.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, guys, I think that pretty much gets us to the end of this. Hey, Harvey, I did have a question on this.
Sure.
The multi-factor, is it integrated with the Citrix Workspace app, or is it is the Workspace app like the target app for the multi-factor push?
So this particular one, again, is just for signing into the cloud portal itself from the administrative aspect. For the users, this is definitely a place where you could do that for them out of the Workspace app. You do want to have some sort of two-factor in place for your users. Again, this is something that's just for your protection, for your environment's protection. Right. But this particular one is just about the cloud portal. But again, we definitely recommend that you have a multi-factor authentication policy in place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of this blog. I appreciate you guys jumping on. Harvey, we'll have you back a different day, and you can enlighten us with more stuff.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
Appreciate you joining. Bill, anything else before we adjourn here?
Nothing today, Andy. Thanks, Harvey, for joining. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed listening to this session. We'll keep doing it every week. We love having these conversations. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guest for attending today's podcast. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. For any input, or if you'd like to be a part of our podcast, please email us at info@XenTegra.com. Please head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series. This podcast is copyrighted by XenTegra LLC.